Hi everyone. So in this short tutorial, we're going to talk about how we can transition between two pieces of music. We're going to need three items for that. First, you're going to need a template. We're using the Unity Berkeley first person template, and you'll get the link in the assignment for that. You'll also need two themes that we can transition between. So the first thing I'll do is open up Unity Hub, and I'll add that new project into my Unity Hub so that I have easy access to it. So I'll go to my desktop, and here's the project. I'll hit open. That will add it here to my project window. Then what I can do is open it from the Unity Hub by just clicking on it. And during this period, what it's doing is basically Unity is opening it up. It's kind of analyzing it, making sure it's okay, and then it will actually bring up the project. This project itself starts with a pretty basic starter scene, and we'll modify that starter scene as we go. So it looks like it's almost ready here. Okay. Now, if you're not seeing this, there's a couple things that you should do. One is go up to the window menu and make sure you're using the default layout. So window menu, layouts, and then default. And that will bring you to the default window. Now, we're using the starter scene. If you see untitled up here or a scene that hasn't been initialized yet, just double click on the starter scene down here. So make sure you're in the project window, double click the starter scene, and that will pull that scene up. Right now, I'm zooming out using the trackpad, which means that I'm using two fingers to kind of pull back. You can use, if you have a scroll wheel, you can zoom back that way, or you can right click. You definitely need a right click mouse and use the A, S, D, and W keys to kind of move back and forth while that right click button is down. So we're just going to make sure our project works by hitting the play button. And you should be able to look around using your mouse pad, and then use the ASW and D keys to move forward, back, left, and right. You can also use the arrow keys if you want, and you should hear the footsteps. All right, now to get started, we want to check out a few new concepts here. One is, how does Unity mix audio? Well, there's a mixer built in that you can customize, and if you go up to the window menu, go down to the audio menu item and choose audio mixer, it will bring up a new tab with the mixer that I created already for this project. And it has four different faders: a master fader, dialogue, sound effects, and music. Now, we can make this mixer as large as we want, and audio sources are then attached to one of these channels. For instance, our first person controller here, if we look at that and kind of scroll down, we can see this audio source, which actually plays the footsteps, is going to the sound effects output, this sound effects channel. So if we hit play here, you can actually see the sound effects in the meter as I move back and forth. They're playing out of the sound effects meter now, and the channel. So we can adjust the volume of that if we want to turn that down or turn that up if we want. We also have snapshots, which we're going to talk about in a minute. A snapshot is it saves all the mixer settings that we can then adjust and go back and forth between snapshots, which we're going to do. We're going to actually create a submixer that goes into our music channel because we have two pieces of music and we want to go between those two pieces of music. So what I want to do is set up a secondary submixer that goes into this music channel. And to do that, we can click the plus button on mixers, and we'll call this music submixer. Now, right now, it acts independently, kind of side by side, the master audio mixer. But if we drag that to the master audio mixer, then it asks us, well, what channel do you want to put it on? And so what we'll do is route this submixer to the music channel of our master audio mixer. So now in our master audio mixer, we don't actually see it here, but basically this submixer is routing into our master mixer. And in our music submixer, what we can do is we can add some more groups. So we can say, we can add in new channels. And so a group refers to kind of a channel. And in this, we're going to say, we're going to have two. We're just going to say theme 1. This could be like a location 1, 2 if you wanted. Then we're going to create another one if I hit the plus button, make sure that's under the master mixer. So I'm going to call this theme 2. So you can have it, you can make it a sub-mixer of the other channel. We don't want this. We want them all on the same level. So drag them so they're kind of theme 1 and 2 like this, both underneath the master mixer here. Now we're going to need 2 snapshots. One snapshot when theme 1 is playing, and another snapshot when theme 2 is playing. So let's call this snapshot 1 and snapshot 2. So 2 is where 2 is playing, and snapshot 1 is where 1 is playing. So I'm going to rename this by sort of clicking on it and renaming it, just so it's a little easy for us to kind of see what's going on. And then when I go back and forth between snapshot 1 and 2, it's actually pulling up the volumes of those different mixer items. Now, one thing that you have to also be aware of is this little star here. This star is how the scene starts. So it's the start snapshot. When you actually hit play, we start in this. So if I start the game selected on snapshot 2, it will actually flip over to snapshot 1, and you'll see them flip. And so you could see that flip. You can see also on the screen when we're in play mode, you can edit in play mode if you hit this button. You have to hit the escape button to kind of get your mouse cursor back in, and then edit in play mode, and you can actually edit them. We don't need to edit them here, but that's just a feature that I want you to be aware of. Okay, cool. So we have built a music submixer that feeds into our master audio mixer. Now we want to create a few different, we want to put our themes into the game. So let's get rid of that monolith there by clicking on the monolith here, and then what we'll do is delete that. I did that by right-clicking. I'll save the scene here. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go to the project menu, and I want to import our new themes. So by the way, you can see that our music submixer is actually, when we made that, it actually put it in the top level of our assets directory. Okay, I have my themes here, so I'll go ahead and import my themes. I can drag and drop them on my Unity project, and it will actually copy them to the assets folder. So if I look at my project here and go into my assets folder here, I can see that it's added theme 1 and 2 meta files along with it. A meta file basically keeps some additional information about those themes as we need them. Things like compression data and things like that, how I want them compressed. Right now the default compression is set to Vorbis at 100, at quality 100. It goes from 0 to 100. In any case, I want to add these themes to the scene. So let's create a game object or kind of like a container to play these themes. So we'll go up to the game object menu and create an empty game object. An empty game object doesn't have a shape attached with it. It does have a space, meaning it has a position in our 3D space, but we're just kind of using it as a container for our world. And so I'm going to change the name. I can either change it over here or up here. I'm going to call this, we'll call this music object. And it's just going to live in our world. And we're going to put 2 audio sources on it. The first one, we'll add a component, and we'll start typing in audio. And you should see at that point audio source. We'll just add 1 for now. And we need to pick an audio clip. So we'll use this little circle icon here to pick an audio clip. For this one, theme 1. Now the output. Now this is where we can choose our mixer, and that's what we want to do. So let's go ahead and choose our theme 1 from the music submixer. So I'll select theme 1 so that our theme 1 is going to our theme 1 channel, like that. Right. Now we're just going to check it. It's going to play on awake, which means when the world comes alive, it will play. We also want it to loop. So let's just check it, make sure it's working. And it is. And I can actually go to the audio mixer here. By the way, if you don't see your mouse cursor, hit escape and it will give you your mouse cursor back. And then I'll hit audio mixer and you can see it's coming on the music channel. It's also coming theme 1 going out to master and then over here to the master music channel. All right, so let's put our second theme in. So our second theme, also go back to the music object here, and let's add another audio source. And I'm going to go ahead and just type in audio, select my audio source. We have a second audio source. I'm going to choose the audio clip, which will be theme 2. And I'm going to have that outputting to the theme 2 music submixer. I'm also going to loop this and make sure that's play on awake. And then I'm going to save my scene. You can see up here that there's a little asterisk after it. That means that the scene hasn't been saved yet. As soon as I save it by either hitting Control S or Command S, it will get rid of the asterisk. That's how you know if your scene's been saved. Now if I hit play, will I hear both themes? No. Again, I'm using escape to show my mouse. And if I go to my music submixer, remember theme 2 is all the way down here. And that I need to switch to the secondary snapshot in order to switch between this version and this version. So that's what we're going to set up next. So in a large game, when you go from one area to another area, you may change music. And that's kind of what we'll set up here. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a geometric object that when we collide with it, will trigger a transition between one snapshot and another snapshot. So let's go ahead and create a game object. Let's create a cube. Here's my cube here, and I want to make it really big. So I'm going to kind of move it over here, and I'm going to make the scale of it pretty big. So I'm going to make it 50 across, let's see, I want actually 50Z is what I want. So I'm going to change that to 1. I want Z50. So I want it really big across. And then I want the X value, let's say 10. And then let's change the Y value to 10 as well. So we have this big giant cube. And so this could be an area within our game that we step into. Now make sure that it's slightly above, you can kind of move it up and down until it's slightly above the plane that we have, and you can move it closer to the edge if you want. So we have it there. Now the next thing we want to do is we'll rename this, instead of cube, let's call this location 1. It's almost like a room that we have. So location 1. And what we want to do is make this a trigger. That means that we don't collide with the outside of it, that we can walk through it if we want to. So let's kind of do that. So if I start my world, I'll hear theme 1 again, and I'll see it, my world, and I can kind of walk through it. Now, when I'm in it, you'll notice something that's kind of curious. When I'm in it, it kind of disappears. That's because game engines only render from one side. That's to keep the CPU cycles down. So it assumes that you won't go into an object and view it from the inside. So when we go into an object, it actually kind of disappears because it's only rendering from the outside. It's rendering graphically from the outside. In fact, we can make the whole thing disappear if we turn off the mesh renderer here. But it still exists and we still can trigger it. We'll do that later though. The next thing I want to do is switch from one piece of music to another. So I've written a script for that. You just have to hit add component and start typing in music, and you'll see music snapshot switch. And basically what this does is it will switch to a new snapshot based on when you trigger into it. So all I need to do is add that script and then choose the snapshot that I want to trigger. So for this, I want to go to snapshot 2. Now, when I hit play, and I move over to my object, it's going to switch to my other piece of music slowly. And you can actually see it in the little mixer. Okay. So if this were a real game world, what I might do is actually turn off the mesh renderer so they couldn't see the trigger point, and I'll try and remember where it is. So now when I play it, what I can do is kind of look over here and then move into it, and now I'm kind of in a new area in the game, even though I can't kind of see it. For this, it's just easier to kind of leave the mesh renderer on so I could see where it is. I'm also going to put one on the other side too. So game object, and I'll create another cube, and I'll call this location 2. And I'm going to make this pretty big as well. So 10 by 10 by 50. And I'll make sure to move it up a little bit above my plane, and then move it a little bit over here. Because I want them to look a little different, they're both white right now, it's a little hard to tell. I can go to my project menu here, and I actually have a material, I think within standard assets, and I have some materials. I have a black material which I then can add to my location 2 cube so I know which one is which. Okay, then I can go to location 2, and I'm going to put the other snapshot on this one. So I'll type in music when I hit add component, music, snapshot switch, and then I'm going to pick my other snapshot to go back to snapshot 1 over 3 seconds. You could change the fade times if you want. 3 seconds feels fairly slow. I think it's linear, and you may be saying, well, can I change that to logarithmic? You can, but it's a little complicated and it doesn't work that well. The Unity audio engine is okay for doing some things, but it's not super customizable. Okay, you'd probably use audio middleware like Wise or Fmod to get it really customized. So now when I hit play, I'll go over to the white cube first, the white rectangle. I forgot to do something, by the way. I'll let you guess what that is. So when I jump over here, oops, I didn't make it a trigger, which means that I collided with it and I can't go inside. You have to make sure that location 2 is set to is trigger here. Then we'll save our scene, and then we'll try it one more time. Here we go. All right, so that changed us to theme 2. And then I can go back to theme 1 here. And that piece of music picked up where it was running. It's constantly running in the background, which is not exactly CPU friendly, but I just wanted to show a little bit about how we can sort of create the transition using these fancy audio mixers here. One last thing before we go, you can actually, just a little bit more about audio mixers here, you can actually have effects on any one of these channels, and this is the list of effects. It's not a huge list, but you can add some reverb, you can actually add some sends, you can actually duck volume. Duck volume means that if, for instance, I had dialogue playing and I wanted to duck the volume or turn down the volume on the music while the dialogue was happening, I could do that. So the mixer is a little flexible, and you can do a lot with it. It's not incredibly sophisticated. For that, you'd probably add in a plugin like Wise or Fmod or a different audio middleware plugin. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial and look forward to seeing you next time.